everyone. Welcome to At Home with Sally. I'm Sally Clarkson, and I have the biggest privilege in the world to be with so many friends from all over the world who join me every week to listen to my stories, inspiration, biblical encouragement, and I am just so glad that you're here today. Thanks so much for joining me. Hi, my friends. I'm so happy to have you join me on this special podcast today. I'm adding one this week because I think that this subject that I'm going to address is so wonderful and personal. I have a sweet friend that came into my life as a total surprise. Melissa, will tell us at least what your job is, and then I'll go ahead and tell my story. But this is Melissa, and I'm so glad to have you on today. Tell us all about you, and then I'll tell about how we joined each other for some fun things, and
Okay.
we'll keep going from there.
All right, Sally, thank you so much for having me on the podcast to talk to your listeners and friends. I am editor of Victoria Magazine, and so that was what allowed us to meet each other. And in my role as editor, I still do some writing, but also produce our magazines and books and special events. And it's just such an honor to get to be part of this publication.
Well, it's so true. And I don't even know if Melissa knows how much of a privilege it was for Sarah and me to be able to be the writers in residence for a year because we had found Victoria very early in its inception. And we literally both have boxes of Victoria magazines that we have saved. I think we have every single magazine until the past couple of years when we were living overseas. And so we would sit on Sunday afternoons. I would sneak up to my room. I would light a couple of candles. We would bring a cup of tea and a cookie. And Sarah and I would just flip through the beautiful pages of Victoria magazine. And I love Victoria because it encompasses not just beauty and the place of home, but it also, for many years, has supported uh, talented, skillful, professional women who are artists or writers or whatever, musicians, whatever. And they like to celebrate this capacity that women have. So today I'm going to be talking with Melissa about her new book called Gracious Home: Cultivating a Spirit of Welcome. And this book is just such a beautiful pleasure to be able to look at and to be able to enjoy because I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm so hammered by the difficulties in life that it's fun to escape and to be stimulated and to have ideas that I can have to place ways in my home or places in my home that can encourage me and other people too. That's a very, very long introduction. But Victoria has just been a real dear a part of my life, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more. Um, well, I'll just go ahead and tell you now, and then I get my part over it. I Because we had been working with Victoria for the year as an artist in residence, Melissa was so gracious to invite Sarah and me to a tea at was it the Randolph Hotel
Yes, in Oxford.
in Oxford, and it was such a lovely tea. But she got up to speak to all of the women who were traveling throughout England together and seeing new places and learning new things. And she was painting such beautiful pictures with her words. I thought, this woman is a talented, she's so talented at being a wordsmith and
Oh, thank
opening
you.
up ideas. And so I when she told me she had a book, I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to want to read that book because I was so inspired just hearing you talk at the tea. You really are amazing. So,
Oh, thank you. That means a lot coming from you, and I really enjoyed the opportunity to sit down and talk one-on-one with you and Sarah at that tea, and I have told so many people after who have asked me, what was it like to meet Sally Clarkson in person? That I feel like you are the most engaged listener I've ever talked with.
Oh,
Just
really?
yes, your body posture, when you ask a question, you lean forward, you hang on every word, and I think you just have such a gift for making people feel so seen
Hmm.
and to feel that you're genuinely interested in other
Well,
people.
I'm so glad you captured that because I was. Was and still am. Okay, so tell us the name of your book and when did you first, what was the first vision or inspiration for putting this book into print? It's
Yes,
called Grace
well,
Home.
for Victoria, we produce 2 books a year. These are such a joy for our editorial team to work on. And initially, when we started talking about this book, it was more along the lines of how to make a home look welcoming, how to make wreaths, front doors, entryways. And I thought, well, that would be pretty and it would be interesting. But when you really start to think about making a home gracious, or
Hmm.
you start talking about an intangible theme like welcome, I
Hmm.
feel like that's a theme that we need to go deeper with.
Hmm.
I did not want to make a book called Gracious Home and present it in such a way that readers don't feel welcomed to the book. To
Right,
think,
right.
oh, I don't have a large enough space. I don't have enough resources of time or money. I wanted it to be a title that welcomes anyone who picks it up
Hmm.
into the book because we all share that sense of belonging.
Well,
So
yeah.
there's that deep longing for a sense of belonging. So I really wanted to speak from the heart and
Hmm.
to the heart about how to create a gracious home. And then the subheading of cultivating a spirit of welcome really speaks to the idea that this is a lifelong process
Hmm.
and that throughout different phases of life and different seasons, different priorities come about. And it really is a beautiful thing to think about a home being with you through all the ups and downs and how that space your spaces can be transformed and you can create this haven of belonging for
Hmm.
yourself and others throughout life.
I love that because you know that home is a theme of my own life, and the more chaotic the world gets, and the more difficult and the more demanding, the more, and I guess maybe just getting older, I've realized that home is a holding place. It's a place where people need to know they can come to be able to share in life and friendship and beauty. And that's why I loved your title. What does it mean to you? I had a lot of my life was in the South, and gracious is she was a gracious woman. Gracious is kind of one of those words that has really grown on me over the years. What does it mean to be gracious? What is the root word of gracious? Because I think that what this book is about, not only is it about beautiful, arrangements and beautiful places in a home, but I think it's really about the heart of the person who conducts life in that home. And I think that no home really has life unless the person who has cultivated it and put it in place has a heart for serving or for bringing grace about. So tell us what your picture of gracious is.
Well, I really feel like at the root of it is an unconditional love.
Mm.
And there's this desire to serve, to create an oasis for other people. And, um, I feel like it is creating that place of belonging for others. And it can be a place that is physically beautiful, well ordered, and lovely in every way. It could also be a very modest, humble dwelling, but where
Mhm.
that heart for home is there and really the desire for connecting with other people.
Mhm. I love that. I don't know if you know this or not, but our family has moved 24 times, nine times internationally. And we've had big places, little places, old places, new places. And yet we found that wherever we went, we made home. Home was more defined by our rhythms and by the love that we shared, the rhythms and traditions, the things that we did. And so it never seemed that we weren't at home together. It's what you're saying right now. Uh,
Yes, and really, we just want to remember that where we abide is home. There can
yeah,
be, there can be this tendency to, sometimes to look for inspiration or dream of a distant someday
right.
when we'll have, when we're not renting and we're able to buy, or when we have a larger home or more property. But whether your whole world exists in 4 rooms of a bedroom or to vast real estate holdings, where
Mhm.
you abide is home. And it's so worth it to cultivate a gracious home, whatever that looks like for your season of life.
Well, I have always said that wise women are those who copy wise women. And so I was taking notes on a lot of your ideas in here. But what are just some, maybe for those who either need refreshing or who are just really now developing a vision for home, what are some ways, some very specific ways that you can make a home a place of welcome or a place of graciousness?
Well, in the book, I looked at cultivating a gracious home in really 3 ways. You want to make home a gracious and welcoming haven for the individual. And then going beyond that to,
Assess their needs and see what, imagine
yes,
what they might need. Uh-huh.
yes. And then sometimes, especially, I know you have a lot of young mothers who watch the show and or listen. And I think sometimes when we're in those especially busy seasons, we can spend so much time pouring out for others that we neglect to refill the vessel.
Mhm.
And so, home can be a place that really nourishes your spirit as an individual. And I think you have to give yourself a lot of grace in the area of creating a home, but also look for ways to balance.
Mhm.
Um, sometimes you, as a mother, you realize that the most needful thing is to leave the dishes on the counter and attend to the needs of a sick child or read a storybook. Other
Mhm.
times, you may have to shift to the other side of that and realize that certain areas of your home are no longer really serving you or not filling you with joy. So I think just giving yourself grace, but realizing that it is important to make home a haven for yourself.
Mhm.
I share in the book that when my children were really young, I have 4 children, and one summer after we had been traveling and were very busy, I realized that our primary bedroom had really gotten out of control. We had, empty suitcases and toys littering the path, and I had set up the ironing board in a corner thinking I would knock out some laundry, and it sat there for a week. And so each day when I would awake, the first sight would be my ironing board and the laundry that was awaiting me. And
Mhm.
I would wake up and get out of bed already kind of feeling defeated.
Overwhelmed, yeah.
Yes. And so for me, I hit a point that I needed to set aside time and reclaim that space as an oasis.
Mhm.
And doing so allowed me to really wake up and see beauty and look out the windows and be ready to embrace the imperfect beauty that was outside the door.
Mhm.
So I would say, just speaking to so many of your listeners who are in that very busy stage of pouring out for little ones, finding some ways to still make home your oasis so that it refreshes you, so that you have that cozy spot to go to for um, reading your Bible or reading a book, that can pay off so much in
Mhm.
preparing you to serve your family.
That's so true. I want to touch on two things that you said that I thought were so important. And one is in this really busy, demanding place in life. You had four children and you worked and you were very involved in their lives as I was. And I happen to have uh, two sets of company, out of state company that are coming to visit me in the next week and a half. And I one of my thoughts was, oh, how am I ever going to get my house in order? Kind of what you said. In other words, my house is fine. There's just so many details. We have this one little room that we don't ever let anybody come into, because it's where there's wrapping paper and things to throw away and books that I mean, we just pile things in there that we're going to be dealing with someday when it's not snowy and cold in our garage.
Mhm.
Um, and I thought to myself as I was reading the book, I thought, you know what? Whoever comes here in the next week is just going to want to come and sit and have great conversation and for me to listen to their heart and maybe have a little feasting along the way. And so you encouraged me just to say, okay, I think that women who are busy are constantly in the state of messing and sorting and messing and sorting because we have lots of people who live into our lives.
Yeah.
One of the things I love that you included in the book was you said, because I'm the same, except it doesn't really work. Um, you said you love flowers. And
Oh, yes.
I love flowers as well, but where I live at 7,300 feet high, very few flowers grow. I mean, we have tried. I one time bought 200 tulips or 200 bulbs and planted them. And by the end of the season, there were only two left that the deer hadn't eaten. We have this regular flock of 14 deer that roam all this neighborhood through our house, so they eat all the flowers. So I get wildflower seeds and I
Mhm.
sprinkle them every year. And then I have cutting flowers for my house.
Oh,
But,
wonderful.
uh,
Wonderful.
tell us about you. Where did you come across this love for flowers? What is your favorite flower? And where all do you put them to kind of bring that sparkle to your home?
Well, I talk about flowers in talking about making room to grow in our homes. Um, our homes can really be an inspiring workshop of ideas where we read, we pursue creativity, we have music and play. And, so many of our readers are avid gardeners.
Hmm.
I am not skilled at gardening per se, but I do love arranging flowers.
Hmm.
And I love tulips and roses, but my absolute favorite are ruffly pink peonies. Uh,
Really? I think that's a
yes.
beautiful flower in the South. Several of
Oh,
my
yeah.
friends have peonies, and I've tried and tried to plant them, but they just don't do well for me here.
Yes. And they don't work very well for our yard, but other people in our area have some
Oh,
great
really?
success.
You're making me feel better.
Yes, but I just think, especially when entertaining, I love to have fresh flowers. And it's so encouraging to have a little bouquet by the sink. So while I'm
Hmm.
washing dishes, I see that. I love to have a little posy on the desk where I'm working. I think they're just so lovely placed here and there, just to add a touch of beauty and gives you that little glimpse of the outdoors
Mhm.
to enjoy.
Oh, I love that. I think that's so important. I love what you said too, going back to this. Um, you live a very busy life, I know, and I do too. And I'm an introvert. I don't know if you're an introvert or not, but
Mhm.
I'm an introvert who loves people. But I can get so exhausted. And I've realized that when I come home, it's like the home puts its arms around me. Because when you live in a place for a while, you get to make it a place that wherever you look, wherever you are, there are ways that your life is filling back up. So what fills you up, Melissa? What in your home particularly? I love that you had the flowers by the sink. I'm Clay is the main dishwasher, my husband. So I think I'll follow you in putting flowers on my desk. But tell us some of the other ways that you fill up in your home, because I think a home can almost speak to your own heart.
Yes. Well, one of the really practical suggestions I have for people is to think about the area of your home where you enter. If that's you come in, through the front door or through a garage, what do you see? What greets you? And that might be a space that you can really, if it's become just a place where things are piled up or cluttered, that might not feel as welcoming to you or your family as if you address that and put some beauty there.
Mm.
Also, I think when we make our home a haven of memories, that adds so much joy to our home. The home is a place for your family where so many memories unfold. And that's where we find that traditions give us a safe place to land. But we also can showcase those warm memories. And there are so many ways to do that. Galleries of family photos, displaying children's artwork, um, one of our designers we featured in the magazine collects restaurant menus when she and her husband travel. They're avid foodies, and she hangs a gallery of those framed menus in her kitchen to
Fun.
remind
Oh
them,
my goodness, what a
you
great
know,
idea. Yeah.
yes, and this could be collected rocks or shells. When I travel, I love to pick up teacups because I love afternoon tea.
We
And
also
every
have this in common.
Yes, and every time I walk by and I see a beautiful teacup that I, picked up in England, I remember that day
Mm.
of discovering it on Portobello Road.
Mm.
And so I think collecting those things, setting the table with grandmother's china
Mhm.
and, being able to reflect on memories that were made around her table and share those with the next generation. There are so many ways that we can us display those warm memories in a way that reminds us and our family of the great times that we've shared together.
I think that's such a great idea. I now I want to go back and kind of restore some of the traditions to my home. You can kind of let them go when your kids all move away, but they're very important to Clay and me. We actually keep a lot of traditions, no matter what. At 4 o'clock every afternoon, we are together with who is ever in our house, having tea and at least one chocolate chip oatmeal cookie. Um, okay, so I want to kind of segue into that. What place does food have in a gracious home? In
Well,
your home specifically?
yes, I think it's so special to have family recipes that are passed from one generation to the next. I lost my mother in 2010, but she
Oh,
still remains such a huge influence to me.
mm,
This Christmas, we had a very special moment when my youngest daughter joined me in the kitchen and we prepared one of my mother's recipe. And
oh,
and just seeing that recipe card on the counter and seeing her beautiful script, I felt like we had 3 generations there together.
how sweet.
And, it eating that dish reminded me of all the Christmases I had shared with my siblings growing up and my family of origin, but then it also we were able to serve it to all of my children and extended family. So recipes can be such a great way
Mm.
to share traditions and um, and I also think new recipes, bringing those to your table when you find something. If you try a recipe and it's great, will you have an opportunity to invite your neighbor over,
So true.
just to share a piece of cake and a cup of tea.
Mhm.
So food can be really important in creating those memories. There are also times when, we might let that become a limitation to us and
Mhm.
think, well, I don't have time to prepare a home cooked meal, so I just won't invite anyone over. And I think there's grace there, to not have food together or pick up something, make it as simple as it needs to
Put it
be.
on a really pretty plate, and then it looks more
Yes.
expensive.
Yes, we love to do charcuterie because
Yeah,
you
that's
can
true.
just arrange all the meats and cheeses and crackers in a beautiful way, and it
Mhm,
feels very special, but it's very simple and can
mhm.
come together in minutes.
My young children used to love it when we called them snack meals, when I didn't want to cook, same thing. Well, I did get tickled a little bit because one of the recipes that you have several really wonderful recipes, but it's called escargot, which is basically snails. And when Clay and I lived in Vienna, and we didn't have German down very well, and my accent is still bad, but we had learned at one restaurant that called cinnamon rolls cinnamon snails, Zimtschnecken. And
Oh,
so we just learned to love our Zimtschnecken. And so we went to another little cafe and we asked them if they had any Schnecken. And they brought us two snails apiece for breakfast.
oh.
So when I actually saw this recipe of these gorgeous cinnamon rolls that you have in the book that you called escargot because cinnamon rolls do look like a snail. Um,
Yeah.
I thought that would even be a fun story for people to know about as they're eating their cinnamon snails. But
Yes. Yes, there are several wonderful recipes in the book. These were developed by the chefs in our test kitchen, so
oh,
I can attest that they are delicious, and particularly for, the recipe that you talked about, that was part of a collection of French pastries,
mm,
and I loved sharing this because there was a real breadth within that of some recipes that are very quick and simple to prepare, and also for someone who really loves baking, there are some really fabulous, um, pastries that you can prepare. So, I wanted to give a little something for everyone to think about in serving to guests.
yeah. Well, it's they're beautiful to look at as well. And I'll probably go ahead and restart making my own Zimtschnecken again. The escargot that you have, that was just really beautiful. Well, we've probably come to our close in terms of time. If there's anything else that you would want all of these precious ones to hear, I just for me, talking with you today has really inspired me. It's kind of given me some fuel for flame to putting my energy into home even more, to coming up with some new ideas, to come up with traditions. I really want to thank you for writing this book and for speaking with us today. But is there any one last little message that you could give to these precious ones who are listening to our talk today?
Yes, I would love to encourage everyone to speak the language of welcome that each member of your family can understand.
Hmm.
Particularly when you are in really busy seasons of life, it can be difficult. You feel sometimes like you're always behind and there are not enough hours in the day to accomplish everything you set out to do. I certainly remember times like that, and especially when my children were small or when they were all involved in activities and no one was driving yet. Um,
Yeah.
and we had a really interesting conversation around the dinner table one night. I asked them, "What is one thing that makes you feel most welcome in our home?"
Mm.
And I gave them the example that for me, if I'm away after dark, I love coming home to see that someone has turned the porch light on. For
I
me,
think
that
that's wonderful. Yeah.
yes, that's just a beacon of welcome, and I see that light and I think someone misses me and is eagerly awaiting my arrival. Well, for some of in my family wouldn't even really notice that gesture, but because my children knew that that meant so much to me, they would turn on the light and say, "Mommy, I turned on the light for you."
Oh, how sweet. That's
And
great.
it was really interesting to hear what their responses were. Um, in fact, I remember my oldest son at the time said, I feel really welcome when we have my favorite cereal in the pantry and milk in the refrigerator.
Sounds like a boy, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it was so eye-opening to me, and I thought, how many times had I been too busy to think I can't accomplish everything. I'll just go to the grocery store tomorrow.
That's so
But
true.
knowing that someone in the house just has something as simple as finding a favorite cereal and milk, knowing that that speaks welcome to
Pretty
him.
simple too. Uh-huh.
Yes. Then I thought, okay, well, that moves up the priority list, and
Mhm.
something else, can be the task that's pushed to tomorrow.
Right, right.
So I just think, a lot of times we find that there is not time enough to do everything we would want to do, but we can usually prioritize the most important things. And I think it's just really eye opening, even throughout life, to open that conversation with our families and find out what really speaks welcome, and
Mhm.
then strive to do those things.
Yeah. Well, I think anybody who listened to you today should be inspired, but if they could see these gorgeous full color pictures, they would even be more inspired. So tell us the name of the book again. I'm so excited that I got my own copy.
Oh, yes, you received one of our very first ones.
Oh, really?
I was so eager to place it in your hands, but it's Gracious Home: Cultivating a Spirit of Welcome. As of today, we've learned that copies have reached our warehouse. So
Oh,
the official release date is next week on March 5th. And
oh,
so I'm so excited for this beautiful little book to make its way into the world. It's available at booksellers nationwide and at victoriamag.com. If your readers want to order from there with the code GRACIOUS, they can
mm.
get free domestic shipping.
Oh, that's incredible. And so how tell us also how people can get a hold of your magazine, your lovely, wonderful magazine.
Yes, our magazine is available for subscription at victoriamag.com.
Oh, same
We would
thing.
Yes, yes, you can find our magazines. You can subscribe and order regular issues, special issues, books. And many people may not know that we also have some really lovely products, teas and note cards, and books from some of our sister magazines, and so there's really a lot to be discovered at victoriamag.com.
For us, it was a whole world of encouragement every single week when we would sit down and read. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for being on today, and thank you for putting together such a beautiful book.
Oh,
Now
thank
I'm gonna go
you.
back and relive the stories again. So,
Well, thank you so much, and readers will find a quote from you in the
oh,
book.
I was
So,
very honored.
yes.
So, well, thank you, and thank you, listeners, for being with us today. I know all of you are going to want to go home and or go to wherever you live or were listening to this and make it a place of beauty and welcome for yourself. All right, thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed our time together today and that you'll join me next week. Be sure to look for more inspiration on my blog at sallyclarkson.com. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.